Hey, welcome back to Cards and Comics, and today I got a video for you showcasing my 1960s baseball card collection. And these are all graded, and most of these are going to be Hall of Famers, maybe some rookie cards. But I'll show you what's in this box. It is a full two-row box of graded 1960s cards. I usually put them in order from year, so starting in 1960, and we'll go. And starting out with a 1960 Koufax. Nice card, PSA 8. One of my all-time favorite years. I love the 60s himself, and so there you go. 1960 Sandy Koufax, PSA 8. Next up, 1960 Yogi Berra, PSA 8. You can see a little better there, and very nicely centered. Yogi Berra cards are really taking off in value. I mean, almost every year of Yogi is a lot more expensive than it was a year or two ago. Kind of like all cards are kind of going up a little bit. But yeah, next up fits into my collection. If you've seen a lot of my videos, or if not, you know that I collect a lot of 8.5s. And so even though this card has a little bit of stuff here, this is not on the card. This is on the holder. So on the little scuffing on the holder here. But this is a PSA 8.5 60 Ernie Banks. I got it in this kind of special sleeve here. These are kind of the cool sleeves that fit the cards perfectly, and so I don't want to kind of take it out. But it's a really nice card. It's almost perfectly centered. Yeah, I hate to kind of... This card kind of like has really special sentimentality to me because, you know, it was one of the first cards I really wanted of Ernie Banks, and so when I went out and got it, I felt so much better. There you can see. Very nice card. Yeah, just really nice for the grade, and 60s Hall of Famers, PSA 8. And the way I look at my Hall of Fame collection is I kind of have cards where I consider like kind of major Hall of Famers, and then minor Hall of Famers, and then kind of like second tier. I consider like Ernie Banks to be like that, right below that top tier Hall of Famer. And next up is a 60 Bob Gibson, PSA 8. And again, you see a little bit of that from the holder itself or from the plastic bag. But yeah, this is a really bright color card. You can see, you know, how much color that card has, how well centered it is. And again, you know, this is like one of those things I really like about the 60 set is just the color. So there you go. PSA 8, 60 Gibson. Moving on, staying with 60s. You got a 60 PSA 8 Eddie Matthews. So a 60 PSA 8 Harmon Killebrew. And you can see that's a really nice center card. 60 All-Star Louis Aparicio. And so I don't have a lot of these All-Stars. I'm not a big All-Star collector. But if I find them at a good value, I'll get them. But you can see I don't have that many 60 All-Stars. And so that's the last 60 card I have. And so starting in 61, here is my 61 Yogi Berra PSA 8. One of my all-time favorite cards. I just like that pose. It's just a real classic looking card. Just love that 61 pose. Another iconic for me anyway, 61 card is the 61 Bob Gibson, PSA 8. It's gone up in value, but it was definitely one that was not you know, on my radar as far as value, and now it is. It's gone up quite a bit in value in the last couple of years. Here's an interesting card. So here's a PSA 7 61 Musial. Now I have the same card in an 8.5, and my 8.5 is kind of on my display. So if you saw the display where I had the Honus Wagner and Babe Ruth cards, every level down is a different kind of display of cards, and on that display I do have some Musials, and I have an 8.5 61 on that list. So this is a duplicate, and so I would, you know, go to a show, I would, you know, I'd sell a card like that, you know, that would be a card, you know, I would probably look to sell as a duplicate. 61 Eddie Matthews, PSA 8. 61 Dick Rose. So this is the first real non-Hall of Famer card I've got, but this card is special for me for two reasons. One, it's the first card in the set, so it's always worth more money. being the #1 card. And Dick Rote was MVP in 60. And he was on the Pirates team that won the World Series in 1960. So he was a good player as a shortstop. And as a Pirate collector, this is actually a duplicate, so that's why he's in here. I've got multiple card versions of this card. So this is my duplicate 8, and so he's over here in this section. 61 Duke Snider 7. So this is the last 61 I have. It's a fun card. I think Duke Snider cards are really undervalued, so I picked up this card just to have another cool 61. Next up, starting 62. So 62 is my favorite year to collect any Hall cards in the 60s. Just because of how rare they are to find a good grade, and just I think they have some really nice photos. Really classic looking cards. So here's a 62 Yastrzemski, and yeah, this is a PSA 8, and you can see it's pretty nice. It's a little off center, but it has great color, and just a tough card. You know, every 62 is tough, so I'll say that for every one of these, but 62s in general are just tough, no matter who it is. 62 Yogi Berra, there you go. Again, one of my favorite cards of all time. I just picked this up this year. Never owned this card in 8 before. Now here is a very tough card. A lot of people don't realize this card is super tough. It's one of the higher series, card number 544. Willie McCovey. This card is notoriously top to bottom center. You can see it's a little off here. This card's always OC, and it's always cut small too. So if you're going to buy this card, you know, yeah, this card min sizes quite a bit from PSA. So this is a card that if you can find it centered, you might not be able to get a grade on it because PSA will min size it quite often. So it's a tough card to find in a straight 8. Next up is a 62 Banks PSA 8, and again, I view Banks in that second tier Hall of Famer, so I always like to get many Banks cards as possible. 62 Brooks Robinson. This is a very affordable Brooks Robinson card from 62 set. I think cards like this should, you know, they've kind of been stable in price. They could go up a little bit. 62 Duke Snider PSA 8. Again, I really love anything from the 60s in the Hall of Famer. Duke Snider cards are really fun. Now, here is a 62 Ron Santo. And so this is a very interesting card because it's telling you that the picture itself has a little bit of a green tint to it. So that's a variation. So a lot of people, when they put this set together, they will collect the blue tints and the green tints, you know, all the different little variations here. This is a Hall of Fame variation, so I think it's a pretty cool card. I haven't priced this in a long time. I bought it many years ago. You know, so I don't know exactly what the grade is, or sorry, the value. But it's one of the few cards I have that have that green tint. All right, next up, still in 62, as you can see, I really like 62s. 8.5 early win. So Hall of Famer, 8.5. Not a tremendously valuable card, but just cool nonetheless. These 62 All-Stars, I think, are really cool, just in the sense that they're a little harder to find and grade, like all 62s, but a lot of good players, and value-wise, pretty affordable. And I like this set this year because you don't have the 68 or the puzzle backs like in some later years. And last but not least, in 62, I got Casey Stengel. So this is his first year as the Mets. There you go. After he got fired for losing the 60 World Series, so he ended up being in the Mets. So starting now in 63, and go to my 63 Flares collection. Now, I put together most of this set, and so this is the checklist. I graded this checklist. This was an SGC 86, and it graded a PSA 6. So for anyone who's flipping cards, look how nice this back is. Yeah, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and I went from a 7.5 to a 6 on this card. PSA is very rough on this card because it's so valuable in the high grades. I think I got just kind of like that, you know, they were protecting that grade a little bit, but oh well. Here's a rarity in my collection, a PSA 9. Yeah, here's a 63 Fleer Warren Spawn. I think this came up and it was a good value, and I just snagged it. I'm a big fan of Warren Spahn, and yeah, having a 63 Flair is pretty awesome. Here is a 63 Flair Don Drysdale PSA 8, and again, like I said, I've got most of the set. So most of the Hall of Famers I have. The Willie Mays is kind of pulled out, so you won't see a lot of Willie Mays and Hank Aaron cards yet. You'll see some a little later, but right now most of them, the good ones, are pulled out and they're on display. And a 63 Flair Ron Santo, and I've had some folks comment about, because I show Santo cards in some other videos, and they're like, yeah, he's not worth a lot. And I just tell you, look at the values on VCP or eBay. And then when you go to Chicago to these major sports shows, Ron Santo sells really, really, really well. And so I have no problem selling Ron Santo. And here's kind of fun. Here's a dual pair. So here is 63 Topps Warren Spahn PSA 8 and another 63 Spahn PSA 8. So looking at the two, this one is clearly, well, better centered. You can see this one, and then you can see this one. So I would obviously say this is probably the better one. If you look down here at the red, yeah, they're about the same. This one's probably got a little bit better color. So again, you know, two really nice cards, but yeah, two 63 Topps Spahn. So this is starting my 63 Top collection, which I've, again, put together almost this full set. I'm still working on it. Here is the batting leaders card number 2, and this is cool because it has Mickey Mantle on it. It's PSA 8, so it's theoretically a PSA 8 Mantle card, right? It's at least an affordable one. All right, 63 Topps Frank Robinson. I like this card a lot. I think I like the insert photo. It's almost like from his rookie card. And, yeah, just a nice looking card. Classic Cincinnati uniform there. Next up is Orlando Cepeda. And his cards are really not that valuable, but compared to other Hall of Famers, but some of them are dang hard to find and get. And if you look at them, some years they'll sneak up on you as far as how much they're worth, like 62, for example. So, yeah, it's a really nice... I think this is a really nice card for the grade. One little print mark there in that green. But, yeah, I like all Cepeda cards. And I kind of made a point to pick them up a couple years ago when they were still fairly cheap. So you'll see a lot of Cepeda cards coming up. Another Santo 63 Topps. Really cool card. I think, you know, Joe Torre, his cards aren't really worth a ton, but he's obviously a Hall of Famer from the manager's perspective. But, you know, he had a great playing career too. So I mean, he was a great player and a great manager. So he's kind of from both ends was a really great baseball guy. Nellie Fox PSA 8, and then starting 64, you see my Bob Gibson 8.5. And so in 64, I do have quite a bit of 8.5s, or more than one. And here's one of them is Bob Gibson. So there you go. Next up, some more 64s. So I have quite a bit of 64s. Maybe I should do that set too. But here's the Frank Robinson 8.5. And again, I think 64s are really nice because they're such a clean design. Just a really simple, clean design. I think Topps executed well. And then here's the Maris 8.5. So you can see in 64, I've got quite a bit of nice Hall of Fame 8.5s going on. And I love the 8.5 grade, so any chance I get to pick up an 8.5, I will. Tony La Russa. So I believe this is his rookie card. So and he's obviously, you know, a Hall of Famer manager. So it's kind of cool to pick up a Hall of Fame rookie card. 64 Topps Don Drysdale PSA 8. Again, not too expensive. And again, I always wish I had those kind of cards in 8.5. First appearance, kind of Lou Brock on our list. So here you go. Lou Brock PSA 8. Al Kaline PSA 8. So kind of first appearance of Al Kaline too. So you can see, like, some of these earlier years, I don't have quite all the first, second, third tier Hall of Famers. I'm working on them, you know, slowly over time, trying to get all the cool Hall of Famers. But here's a good example of an 8.5. Here's a Juan Marichal 8.5. So This is my fourth 8.5. I guess you can't really call Maris a Hall of Famer, but he's close to it in terms of value. Elston Howard, who was just a really good player. I keep him in this set. I kind of pulled out from just a common because when I go to sell cards like that card, Elston Howard definitely never sells like a common, especially around New York where he's still a pretty popular Yankee. Nellie Fox, kind of one of his last cards as an 8 with the Houston Colts. And then here is Casey Stengel, and I think this might be his last card. So here is an 8.5, and here is an 8. So I got 2 cards of Stengel, 64 tops. I got my favorite, the 8.5, and then I got just the regular 8. So come time to sell some cards, that would be an easy one to let go. Moving on to 65. So starting with Carl Yastrzemski, 65 tops, PSA 8. A lot of people love this card because it's just kind of a cool photo of it's kind of looking at the sky, praying for rain or whatever you want to call this card. I've had this card many times, and I always sell it because when you go to the Northeast to set up a card shows, that card just gets sold. People from the Northeast that are Boston fans tend to love that card, and I don't have a hard time selling it. This is like one of my all-time, again, it's, just the design of 65s make this card look so cool with the blue, his classic uniform, but classic pose. This is like almost a perfectly centered card. So this is why the 60s excite me a lot, because you get cards like this, not too terribly expensive, but they just look so iconic. I mean, you see this card, and I put this card out on a table at a card show, and it sells every time. And that's why I've got this. This is kind of my, unless it's a double, this is my PC. So this is cards I usually don't bring out to card shows. 65 Maris, which I think this is a really nice looking card of Roger Maris from the set. And again, with 65s, you can really tell how nice and fresh the card is by looking at how blue the back is. Let's see if I got some that are a little less fresh. Yeah, that Yastrzemski is really nice and blue. Sometimes in 65, if they've been kind of sitting out for a little bit, the blue will get faded, and you can tell the card's been sitting out exposed a little bit, not quite as pack fresh, glossy. So there's a 65 Drysdale. You can see it a little bit down here. See how that blue isn't quite as sharp than up here. So this probably was exposed a little bit to the sun or to some light. So, but it's still a nice card. But it just shows you that 65s, you can really tell the pack fresh cards by looking at the back. So here's an 8.5 Al Kaline from 65, and just a really sharp card. And again, that blue is super sharp, and so these have all been pretty nice in terms of what's on the back. So that's refreshing. I haven't seen some of these in a while. So here's a 65 Warren Spahn. So this is his last year because he was kind of transitioning to a coach. I always kind of like looking at these guys' last years, and he was 8-13 with a looks like a 5.28 ERA, so you can see it there. And he definitely was at the end of his rope. But if you look at the year before, he posted a 2.6 ERA in 123 games. So I always think it's funny, like Warren Spahn was washed up. Well, he was only washed up for that 1 year. I mean, he really had a great year in 63. So I think this is a cool card, kind of the last card of Spawn, and I got that in an 8, then I've got it as a 7. There you go. So multiples of that card. 65 Billy Williams, a PSA 8. Nice card. I have a lot of 65s, as you can tell. Another card that really sells well is Bob Uecker. I can sell any Bob Uecker card every time I get it. People love the Major League. He's a Hall of Fame announcer. Great personality. Bob Uecker cards sell really well. So yeah, I like picking up as many Euchres as I can get. Another example, multiple. Here's a 65 Gaylord Perry, another 65 Perry. Not an expensive card, but you know, I enjoy having the Hall of Famers. And then again, Ron Santo. I got 2 Ron Santos, PSA 8s. Yeah, this one is probably the nicer of the two. You can see it's almost perfectly centered. This one is a little off left to right. So yeah, and then back-wise, you can see, you know, there's not a lot of difference in the back. So, and last but not least in this pile is my 65 Rocky Colavito. Yeah, I mean, he still sells well in terms of just as a, you know, not a common, but yeah, he's close to a common anymore. I think every year he kind of moves closer and closer to the common status, in my opinion. In a few years, maybe he won't be a common. He'll be a common, but right now, I still have people who ask for him and kind of pull him out as a separate kind of minor star. So he's in here for now. If I need space, he'll probably get moved to my commons from my common stack. So as you know, I know from some other videos, I am a big Clemente collector. So I have this card in an 8.5, and so here's an SGC7, and I bought this card slowly because it just really presents well. It's nicely centered. But this is what I was talking about when I say like cards that are packed fresh. You can see, and I'll show you maybe another card here that's a little more packed fresh to give you an idea of what the differences in backs can look like. Yeah, so here is a Joe Morgan 66, and I'll show you here in a minute. Then here's the Clemente. Now you can just see that color difference in that orange, how bright the Joe Morgan is versus the Clemente. So this is a good example of how that back, in my opinion, affects you know, some of the eye appeal, and so the front obviously has been exposed too. So it just means that, you know, these cards were probably stored somewhere, you know, in the light, or stored where you know, that back, you know, was exposed to the environment, and you know, it just, you know, shows that this card, you know, won't have as much gloss and color as other cards, but it's still a very well centered card. I'm gonna get it crossed over to PSA, but yeah, you won't see very many Clementes because I have a separate PC collection for Clemente, and so they usually go there. But obviously I've got an 8.5, and so that kind of fits into my doubles pile, so I would take that to a show to sell most likely. Here's a 66 Banks, and I've got 2 of them, so 2 66 Banks cards, PSA 8. And looking at them, you know, this one is very well centered, a nice color and gloss, so probably the nicer one of the two, but still 2 really nice cards. I really like this card, so I showed you the back of this card, the Joe Morgan. The reason I love this card is because the you know, the All-Star Rookie logo. So anytime you can do that on a card, and the good thing about this card is, you know, 65 is Morgan's rookie card. 66 is the first year where he's all by himself, and having this Cup logo card, it's just, you know, the All-Star Rookie logo is just so iconic. That just makes that card just look so cool. And it's Joe Morgan's second year. I showed, you know, how nice the back is, so it's just a really cool card. And it's gone up a lot in value as a lot of people like that card. I've had this card multiple times. In fact, I may have another one in here, but 66 Brooks Robinson is fairly easy to find in high grade. So the 8.5 isn't really that special to find, but it's just you know, obviously I want to have a high grade version of that card, and that one definitely fits the bill. Another 8.5 Cepeda. So you can see I've started to put together a few Cepedas, and then Joe Torre 66 8, Ron Santo. And so here's the first appearance, and again, same story with this card. There is Tony Perez, again, with the really cool logo, All-Star Rookie logo for Tony Perez. And I like this card so much, I have a second one that's in 7. And so you can see both cards. Now, here's what Topps does, or here's what PSA does that always frustrates, I think, most collectors, is when they use the different holders. So you can see This card is in a little sleeve and in an oversized holder, and this one is not. And so it does show that, you know, for the conspiracy theorist out there, you know, like you could say, well, maybe this one could have been trimmed. I don't know, but you know, I've got both this card in an 8, 5, and a 7. It's gone up in value, but it's not a terribly expensive card. So, yeah, I don't know if it would have been worth to mess around with that much, but hey, you know, these guys mess around with $20 cards. A really, really rare card, and I'm actually surprised I have it after all these years, is a 67 Brooks Robinson. It's card number 600. It's a high number card. This card has blown up in value. It's the hardest, one of the hardest cards to find this set in an 8. I just love it. I got a chance to get it at a good price, and so I snagged it this year. It's one of my pickups from this year. 67 Ernie Banks. So this card just, I think, is very iconic. You know how well it's framed. You know, you got the bat of the shoulder. It's just like a perfectly designed baseball card. An 8.5. Gibson, 8.5, 67. We lost Gibson this year. It's very sad. Then we go Killebrew. Let's go through these a little quicker. Brock, 8. So really nice Lou Brock there. 8.5 Joe Morgan. So third year, Mr. Joe Morgan. And then 67 Willie McCovey. So a lot of the same Hall of Famers over and over, but you'll see some diversity, I think, as we go through here a little bit. And you'll see some O-Pee-Chees, because I do like O-Pee-Chees quite a bit. Starting around 68, you'll start seeing some O-Pee-Chees in my collection. So there's a Santo 8, another Santo 8. Here is a Mazurowski 8, and I have this card in a 9 in my personal collection for the Pirates. Again, Elston Howard, 9. So starting in 68, so here is an 8 Rod Carew, so second year Rod Carew. Again, with the cool All-Star Cup logo. Yeah, this card has slowly gained in value. And then you'll see this card. Oh, I didn't even mention it. Gosh. Forgot to show. It's a Milton Bradley card. So this came out of a game set. And you can tell they're a little different by the back of the card. They're a little different than the other Topps cards. So a lot of people love, you know, just kind of having a variation. So this is a variation that you can collect of Rod Carew. And there's a whole game that this came out of. There's, I think, a Nolan Ryan, so it's a lot of people collect them. But that's the Milton Bradley version. And then here is an O-Pee-Chee version of 68 Bob Gibson, the 7, and you can really see the difference in color there. O-Pee-Chees were printed on different paper that was a little more brittle, and so you'll see that O-Pee-Chees have these fuzzy corners and these really rough cuts, and yeah, this one is a really nice one. You can see a little bit of that rough cut there at the bottom. And that's the typical peachy cut. You can see it. You can even see it around the other part of the card. And sometimes, you know, over time, you know, the normal wear and tear on a card will smooth them out a little bit. Some of these can be quite pronounced. But here's a 68 O-Pee-Chee Bob Gibson. One of my, again, I love the O-Pee-Chees from these years. So another O-Pee-Chee. Here's a 68 Gaylord Perry, and you can see that back, and again down there at the bottom, that little bit of that rough cut. Now, PSA will not downgrade these cards for having that rough cut, because that's how the cards were made and designed, so they don't usually penalize them for having the rough cut. So I have 268 O-Pee-Chees, and then going into the tops, 68 Yastrzemski, 68 Killebrew, both 8s, 68 McCovey, 8.5, 68 Cepeda, 8, regular Gaylord Perry, 8, and then if you want to compare the two backs. So this is Gaylord Perry O-Pee-Chee, Gaylord Perry top. So you can just kind of see how those backs are different. Next up is Mr. Joe Morgan in an 8. A rarity, a 9, PSA 9, Don Drysdale. And Tony Perez, PSA 8. There you go. Yeah, so I'm getting close to the end. Obviously, 69 would be the end of it. But here's some more 68s. Again, I will have some 69 O-Pee-Chees. It's Ron Santo, Hoyt Wilhelm. Now, I do have these All-Stars. So here is one Hank Aaron, PSA 8. And then, PSA being amazing, my second one is orientated completely different. So, way to go, PSA. I mean, just do it one way and stick to it, guys. Come on. It's not that hard. So, my second Hank Aaron, a 7.5. There's the Santo, an 8. And then the Lou Brock, an 8.5. So that's my 68s. And then moving on to my last year, 69. And I have a lot of 69s, but started out with O-Pee-Chee, and this is a very cool card. Yeah, 69 Hank Aaron O-Pee-Chee. Just a tough card to find. And you'll see on the back, this year's O-Pee-Chee's, that different color is really due. You can really see how that pink color, and you'll see on the back of a Topps. So here's a Topps, and here's an O-Pee-Chee. Those backs are completely different in color. You can kind of see the Gibson versus the Hank Aaron. So just kind of makes them just kind of cooler to have that really different back. But a 7.5, 69 Hank Aaron O-Pee-Chee, one of my favorite cards of all time. Just love any of these older O-Pee-Chees. And then right next to it is the Hank Aaron PSA 8 69 Topps. And I have this card in 8.5 as well. So it's kind of fun to have, both Hank Aaron's, the O-Pee-Chee and the base, 1 in 8, 1 in 7.5. Next up is a Gibson. I showed you the back a little earlier. I have 2 of these. This is a tough card. Some 69s actually are very tough. A good example of that is the Lou Brock. Lou Brock is incredibly tough to find in a PSA 8. Gibson is pretty tough too. And again, I have 2 8s. Moving on into my big stack of 69s. Here we go. Let's start with Al-Kaline. And I've got 2 of those. So 2 69 Al-Kalines. 69 Steve Carlton 8.5. 69 Brooks Robinson 8.5. 69 Jim Palmer 8.5. So you've seen big influx of 8.5s here. Juan Marichal 8. Tony Perez 8.5, and I really like that Tony Perez. I just like the blue in the background. It's just a cool card. So yeah. And I like it so much, I have 2 8.5s, Tony Perez, 69s. Actually a pretty tough card, this Willie McCovey. Either the white or the yellow letter, both really tough to find. And moving into my last deck of cards here. So thanks if you guys have paid attention this long. I'm trying to just kind of show you how I have my collection sorted. So Willie Stargell, Cepeda, Ron Santo. So a lot of doubles on Ron Santo. Gaylord Perry. First, Pete Rose, and you'll notice I don't have a lot of Pete Rose. I used to have a lot of Pete Rose in my collection, and kind of sold them off. I'm kind of hot and cold on Pete Rose. The price of his cards is so high that I'd almost rather just get Mantles and Mays and Aaron's. But there's Yastrzemski 8, All-Star, Yastrzemski 7 All-Stars. These 69 All-Stars are actually really nice looking cards. I don't like the puzzle back. You'll see the puzzle backs. But they sell really well, and they're pretty hard to get in some conditions. So, Tony Ueva, 8.5. Ron Santo, 8.5. And Ron Santo, 7.5. All-Star. So that's it. That is the entire 60s PC Hall of Fame or Major Star collection I have. Now, obviously, you didn't see very many Aarons or Mazes or Mantles. Those are all in a different collection, as well as my Clemente. So those kind of cards are in a different collection, so I'll show that later. But this is kind of all the other Hall of Famers from the 60s that I've collected over the years by year, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.